Welcome back to another Sunday prep day. We have a lot to do today, so let's just get started. So, if you're new here, every Sunday I do my mise en place for the week, so that means chopping all my veggies and also preparing some things that take more time, just so I don't have to spend that time during the week when I come home from work. So, today we are going to make some coleslaw, a curry paste. We're going to make some pork belly and some stock for some ramen. And what else? Some pickled radishes. Did I mention coleslaw already? So, yeah, a lot of things. So I'm just cutting up some leeks for a leek stompot tonight. So, yeah, let's get to the menu. For lunch today, I'm gonna have some sandwiches, like I usually do on Sunday because I'm diabetic. So I had to cut some carbs, so I decided that during the week, all my lunches are low carb, keto friendly, and my other meals, which is dinner, because I don't eat breakfast usually, they're regular meals. If I do have breakfast, it's also low carb. But yeah, I do miss bread, so on the weekend, on Sunday, usually I have some sandwiches on my cheat day. So I'm just cutting up some onions for the tomato soup and for the stock. So for dinner tonight, I am going to do some leek stompot. So a stompot is a traditional Dutch kind of dish, and that is potatoes mashed with a vegetable. So in this case, that is leek. And I'm also going to add a little bit of onion and some garlic and some bacon and some cheese. So then tomorrow, Meatless Monday, for lunch I'm going to have some homemade tomato soup. So I'm going to make that after I chop all my veggies. And then for dinner, I'm going to do a vegan curry, so with chickpeas and lentils. Speaking of the chickpeas, I should probably soak those so I don't forget. Just taking some chickpeas and adding some water. And I'll just let that soak overnight. Yeah, let's continue with the onions. So yeah, Monday, curry. Tuesday, I'm gonna have some coleslaw for lunch, some homemade coleslaw, and I'm gonna have some chicken with that. I'm just gonna finely dice this red onion for my coleslaw. And for dinner, on Tuesday, I do Taco Tuesdays. So I'm gonna have some pork belly tacos. That's one of the meals I'm gonna use the pork belly for. But I'm gonna use that in quite a few meals this week. Then on Wednesday, for lunch, I'm gonna do some pork belly with broccoli. I haven't fully decided yet if I'm gonna do like just steamed broccoli or if I'm going to make like a broccoli mash. I wanted to get cauliflower for cauliflower mash, but the cauliflower is just so expensive this week. So I'll just do some broccoli. Broccoli is also really nice. And then for dinner, I'm gonna do some ramen with a homemade stock. And with that, I'll have some pork belly and a half-boiled egg, mushrooms, all the fixings. Then Thursday for lunch, some more coleslaw, but this time with pork belly. I think that will be the last of my pork belly. And for dinner, I'll do like a burrito bowl or something like that. I have some beef in the freezer. And I'll have some rice with that. That's also a good way to use up a bunch of veggies. And then Friday, as always, for lunch, I have no idea yet. Well, I do have a kind of an idea, but it depends on what I have left over for vegetables and stuff like that. So I usually do fish Fridays, so it'll probably be something with fish. And I'm thinking green beans, because I'm going to use some green beans to go with the ramen. I'll probably have some left over, so I think I'll use those for with some fish, maybe some salmon or tuna. And then for dinner, I'm going to have like a tuna bowl with, or salmon bowl with different veggies and some rice. So I have some shallots here that I already peeled. So I'm going to put those in here for the curry paste and some whole cloves of garlic that are already peeled. And while we're on the curry paste, I have some green chilies. Just cut the ends off and cut them into some rough pieces just to help the food processor along. And then I have some chilies, some red ones that I'm just going to cut coarse, because those will go in my tomato soup, because I like that a bit spicy. Just a little bit of added flavor. It's going to cook for a while, and I'm going to use my immersion blender, so I don't need to do it too fine. But yeah, let's just put that in a container with the rest of the things I need for the soup. So what next? I have a whole bunch of cherry tomatoes. I'm gonna use some of those for the tomato soup, because I just need to use them up, and a couple I will use for the curry. So I'm just going to quarter them, just to help them break down when I cook them. So I just have a whole tub of them, so I'll quickly work through them. Let's put those aside. And then next up, some potatoes. Those are going to go in the stumpo tonight. So let's just quickly peel them and cut them into chunks. Okay, next up, ginger. That is going to go in the curry paste as well. So I'll just quickly peel that. And I'm just giving this a rough chop as well, just to help the food processor out. And if I had some fresh turmeric, I would add that too, but I don't, so I'm just going to use some dried turmeric for the curry paste when I make it. It's not quite the same, but good enough. Oh yeah, if you like my content, I'm at 95 subscribers right now, so I'm getting close to 100. So if you want to subscribe, that's great. But also, when I reach 100, I'm going to do a live stream for a Sunday prep day sometime. So in preparation for that, if you have any questions for me to answer in the live stream, put them down below. So I'm just going to chop up some cilantro. The leaves are going to go in the lime cilantro rice for the burrito bowl, and I'll just put some in the curry as well. And then the stems are going to go in the curry paste. And then the stems, just again a rough chop, just to make it a little easier to break down in a food processor. And then I also have some lemongrass. I'm just removing the outer leaf because that's kind of dry and woody. And the tip. And again, just giving it a rough chop for the food processor. So put that in, and that's everything we need for the curry paste. So I'll blitz that when I do the rest of the prep at the end. Let's see, for the soup and for the stock, I have some celery. Again, I'm not going to bother making it too fine because it's going to get blended, or in the case of the stock, it's going to get strained out. Okay, some of this will go in a container for the stock, and the rest will go in the container for the soup. And for the stock, some whole cloves of garlic, and for the soup as well. Then I have some carrots here. These are going to go in the soup and in the stock as well. So I'm just going to roughly chop them. Divide them between the two. And then here I have a big carrot, and for that I'll use my microplane julienne slicer, and that will go in with the onions and in a moment the cabbage for the coleslaw. I could do this by hand, but the julienne slicer just does a much better job than I could with my knife. And I think that is enough. So this last little bit, I'll just take the end off and cut into smaller pieces for the stock and soup as well. Okay, we're making good progress. Some broccoli for the meal on Wednesday with pork belly. So I'm just gonna cut these into florets. I'll save the stem because I will make some broccoli rice or something like that with the stems. I have a second piece of broccoli. I'm going to cut a few more florets off of that. And yeah, I think that's a decent portion. Now some cabbage. If you're not using a whole cabbage, if you need it to last for a bit, just take the leaves off. Because if you leave the stem on, it will last a lot longer in the fridge, like several weeks. So I'm just taking some of the leaves off. I have a white cabbage here, and I'm going to do the same with a red cabbage. Just for some color, just to mix it up. just going to cut into nice fine ribbons. And half it or quarter it and keep cutting nice and fine. Almost shaving it off. So I'll add that to the carrots and the onions. And then I'll take off a few leaves of this red cabbage and do the exact same. Okay, that's ready to turn into coleslaw in a moment. Then here I have some mushrooms. I forget what these are called, but these will look very pretty in the ramen. So I'm gonna throw a couple in the stock and strain them out when I strain the stock to save it. But then when I actually make the ramen, I'll put some of these in for decoration, some fresh ones. And then last for the cutting, I have some radishes. I need to use them up. So I'm going to make some pickled radishes. So I'm just cutting off the little root and end. And again, I could totally cut these by hand, but since I have a little slicer, a microplane slicer, I'm just going to use that to get nice even slices. And I'm just going to put those in a jar to turn into pickles in a moment. All right, let's clean up a little bit and then we'll start making some food. First up, we'll get our pickling liquids ready. And just some water, some sugar, roughly equal amounts. And some rice vinegar, also roughly the same amount. And we'll just get that to a simmer. And while that is heating up, we will make our curry paste. So just to recap, I have some shallots, some garlic, some cilantro stems, some ginger, some lemongrass, and if you have it, definitely use some fresh turmeric as well. So I'm just going to blitz that up. All right, that looks good. So let me just preheat some Ninja Foodies. So I'll just put them on saute on high. And get some oil in. And let that heat up while I transfer this curry paste into a glass jar. Okay, let's set this aside. And then here we have celery, onions, carrot, and chilies. Just throw that in there for the tomato soup. And saute that for a bit. Add a bit of salt. And let's turn this around. And then for the stock, I have some carrots, onions, garlic, and celery. So just throw that in here. And add a little salt as well. So we'll just let that saute down for a bit. And while that is sauteing, we'll get our pork belly ready. So I'm just gonna score the skin. And perpendicular to that as well. To the tomato soup, I'm going to add my fresh tomatoes, well, most of them anyway. I'm going to reserve a couple for my curry tomorrow. And just for some added tomato flavor, I'm also going to add some tomato puree, tomato paste, whatever you call it where you're at. So let's get that in as well and saute that for a little bit. And while those tomatoes cook down a little bit, I'm going to add my pork belly to the stock for the ramen. The skin side down. I'll add enough water. About 2 cups, 3 cups. And before I forget, I also have some dried mushrooms, so I'm going to add those as well to the ramen stock and pork belly. And some of these other mushrooms. And keep in mind, like, they'll cook for a long time, they'll turn to mush, but I'm going to strain those out and just put some fresh in when I go serve. So to that, add the pressure lid, make sure the valve is closed, and then we're going to pressure cook that for about 50 minutes. And in the meantime, we'll just add some water to the soup. And you know what? I'll add a couple of mushrooms to that as well. These are just dried shiitake mushrooms. Just because I'm keeping it vegan and I want a little bit of that umami flavor. So I could totally slow cook that, but since I have a pressure cooker, I'm just gonna put the pressure cooker lid on and just pressure cook that for about 45 minutes. It's longer than it really needs, but I just want everything really nice and soft so I can puree it. Make sure the valve is closed. All right, and in the meantime, our sugar has completely dissolved. I'll just pour that over my radishes. So just to refresh, this is just a little bit of water, a little bit of rice vinegar, some sugar, and a pinch of salt to go in with my radishes. Lid on. Quick pickled radishes. Next up, a coleslaw. So I have my diced onion, my shredded or julienne carrots, and my white cabbage and red cabbage. So just add a pinch of salt to that. Some mustard, some mayo, and some fresh cracked black pepper. Give that a mix. I'm going to add a little more mayo. You don't want to add too much because the salt is going to draw moisture from the vegetables, especially the cabbage. So it's going to get a lot wetter. So you want it a little drier than you think it will be in the end. Give that a little taste. Tiny bit more salt. A little bit more mustard. I like it a little spicy. I always use French mustard, like Dijon mustard, because it's nice and sharp. And also a little more pepper. One more taste. Yeah, that's nice. So I'm just gonna put everything away while we wait for the pressure cookers to finish, and then we'll close out the video. And there we have it. I just let the soup cool down a bit, and I put the immersion blender in to get that nice and smooth. I strained out all the solids from the stock. So that's ready to go for my ramen. And here I have my pork belly. So when it's time to use it, I just cut a piece off and air fry it to get it nice and crispy. And yeah, I'll use that with several meals. So that was all the prep for this week. Now when it's time to make lunch or dinner, I can have that on the table in minutes. So if you like this, I do this every Sunday. There's a playlist at the end. Maybe leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Oh, and leave some comments that you want me to answer if I do a live stream for reaching 100 subscribers. So thank you for watching. Until next time. Bye for now.